Hey everybody, it's Pastor Siri. I'm a Lutheran pastor and a spiritual seeker. And once a month, I lead a group called The Holy Experiment, in which women gather both in person and online, and we discuss various topics. And today I'm going to show you an edited version of our conversation on Jesus and the Chakras, Part 3, where we talk about the throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and the crown chakra. It is a really, really cool conversation. I love bridging Christianity with other modalities, and I hope you find it really helpful as well. So take a listen. So just a very brief review. The four chakras that we talked about the last 2 months. The root is sort of responsible for interpreting our sense of safety in the world. Is it safe to be here? And a lot of like the very basic things of food, shelter, body, money, sexuality can be tied to this root chakra. And then the sacral chakra, right in the womb center, is very much responsible for our wants, our desires, our passions, our creativity, and feelings. And it can be in a very raw, primitive form, especially in the beginning. It can be very, very powerful, which is one reason why probably it's been so diminished over time, is because it's such great power that it needed to be controlled. And moving up to our solar plexus chakra, right in the core area, this is really responsible for us understanding our own sense of power and identity. And what we can do, our will. What is our will? What can we accomplish? And then as we move up through this little barrier into the heart, and the heart is the bridge between these lower, very dense forms of living in the world and these lot higher three, which are very light, we think about them. It's harder to see them, whereas we can sort of see the effects of the things that are happening in the lower chakras. And the heart really is this bridge that can heal and connect them all. And when that heart is really open, we can have a good sense of integrating all those pieces together, all belong, all good, all blessed, all healed, and come to a deep sense of love for ourselves, for who we are, as well as love and forgiveness and acceptance of others. And as I briefly mentioned before, Jesus seemed to really embody these healthy chakras so far. So the next one we're going to talk about here is the throat. And the throat is ideally the ability to clearly speak and articulate our thoughts and ideas and feelings, while also being able to listen intently to others, which is interesting. It is to have clear, open, compassionate, and wise communication. That happens all the time. Immediately, I think about all the ways that we just don't have that, right?
Yeah.
On the one hand, the sense of physically a closed throat. Have any of you just felt like your throat's tight or sore? Jaws being tight. I mean, this one feels really obvious. And one of my teachers about this said that one of the reasons we have so many jaw problems is it's like a bottleneck of energy physically. And so when we have other stuff going on here, energy imbalances going on here, it's bottlenecking here. And so many of us are, I mean, think about the stress we have here in our neck and our upper back and jaw pain. And because the free-flowing energy of saying what needs to be said in the right way, in the right timing, for the right place and the right people, clearly how you want it to, is so hard. one of the things that closes our throat up is fear. A very real fear of how will people respond if I say the thing. And that those fears are coming from down here, right? Will I be safe? Will I be shamed? Will I be guilted? Will I be hurt? Wounds that we've had in our heart from being betrayed, yelled at, shamed for speaking a need, a want, our thoughts. You know, good girls don't say that. Boys don't do that. Or it just there's a lot that gets in the way of us being able to speak clearly and freely. I think one of the ways I learned to speak for so many years in such, I would always couch around what I was trying to say. And I didn't realize this until I was sort of married to my current husband, who's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you saying? Like, be clear, be direct. And one of the things that came from was when I was in 6th grade, I repeated a statement that another girl said, and it got back to a girl, and she was throwing fists at me in the playground. They didn't land, but it scared the living daylights out of me. And I remember thinking to myself, I am never going to say anything against someone again. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was so scared. So fear really can close us down. And that's a lot of conditioning, a lot of generational conditioning, millennial for women who have had to learn to be passive aggressive and subtle in ways to avoid punishment, to avoid being moved at the stake, many, many things. On the other hand, we can have overactive throats where you just talk and you talk and you don't even know what you're saying half the time, but you're just going and you're going. And, as one woman puts it, it's a man of a few thousand words. It takes 1,000 words to say what 10 could say. And that comes from another sort of overactive sort of place of just not it being a fully grounded. What do I mean? How can I say this clearly? How is this aligned? Obviously, lying is going to be part of this chakra because, and why do you lie? Often for fear. I think we learn to lie right away because we learned that telling the truth in every situation is not safe. Jesus, it's very interesting because he speaks a lot. And it's very interesting to watch the fact that he does not couch his words. He's very, very intent on what he wants to say. He has a clear message he wants to give people, and he will intentionally use various teachings like maybe the Beatitude, Sermon on the Mount, but then he'll have tons of stories, parables, which is a different method of teaching. And he will also be very direct with people. And the interesting thing about that is the only way he can be that direct with people, in my opinion, is because he's already worked out these bottom chakras where he's not afraid of their response, or at least his fear of their response is not what's going to drive him, right? So, love the story, Luke 4. First thing Jesus does after he comes back to the desert, goes to his hometown, opens up the scroll of Isaiah, reads this beautiful passage. The Spirit of the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. And then everyone goes, oh, this is really great. And he goes, yeah, but, and immediately says the thing that's hard, that's going to stretch that. Say, it's not just about you, the chosen people. It's about beyond that. And they just immediately want to throw him off a cliff. Like, that's how he sets the tone. And he never shies away from saying the hard thing. And we know that it actually does eventually turn out very bad for him, which he knew it would be. The amount of guts you have to be able to speak with full awareness of how it's landing, good, bad, and ugly, and to receive the ramifications and consequences of that fearlessly are shocking to me. Last story I'll share about that too is there are many instances where the Pharisees try to trick Jesus into saying something. They give him a nearly impossible question that if he answers this way, he's wrong. If he answers this way, he's wrong. And then he not magically, he is wise enough to pick the third way that they didn't think of, often by turning it back on them. And that level of the skill in which he's able to use words and be in control of his own language and not even have people catch him or manipulate him into saying the wrong thing is also brilliant. So I'm going to pause there and just sort of open it up for any reflections on what I've said so far.
I was thinking it's a good thing I'm a pastor, so I get to say what I need to say on a regular basis. Otherwise, I would really have jaw and throat issues because I'm given the opportunity. If I weren't, I would be at the chiropractor all the time or, sucking on lozenges because my throat hurts all the time.
I was at risk of losing a union position, and I got to go on leave through the end of the year. And so after the leave went through, I woke up 2 days later. I stretched out and I heard my jaw crack, and I had TMJ from the stress of going through a bad work situation. Then the rest of my leave was spent treating the TMJ.
Oh, yeah. I know we're all going like this. Like the whole time I've been talking, I feel like people are going, oh.
But obviously, I wasn't allowed to say what I needed to say at that job. No.
And we see women who are very brave right now in the world using their voices, and they can often be responded to very negatively because of that misogyny that's sort of baked into our world right now. But some of them really have worked through the I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to say what I need to say. Well, and think about it from this perspective too. The inability to hear the truth is our own issues that we have unresolved too, right? So I'm painfully aware of the fact that if someone says something that I might react to, that's my own woundedness within me. And then the more I heal myself, the less people have any control over taking me off,
Right.
Which is fantastic when that happens. But that shows you the level of woundedness our planet's in, that we get so triggered and upset by the dumbest stuff that people will say or do, that we can't handle somebody living their own life or saying the hard thing, because there's so much kind of human trauma that we're all carrying that's unprocessed. We don't have the capacity to be able to hear. That was the other point that I wanted to bring up, is that Jesus' ability to hear others and shift and change his mind or where he's going, to say, oh, yeah, I've never seen faith anywhere quite like that. Kudos to you. He seems to have a capacity for holding space and listening that other people struggle with. They can't reciprocate with him.
I once had to have a discussion with someone that rents our building, and he was trying to decide that he was in charge of the building.
Oh, okay.
And he is not, I am. And I was assigned by my board to go have this conversation. And I remember stopping and shutting down my feelings and emotion chakra and opening my voice chakra so that I could actually say what needed to be said on behalf of myself and my building and my community. And he basically will not talk to me since,
Yeah.
because he was offended by me, a woman,
Message.
stating
Mhm.
this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I get that. I'm not going to change it, but I get it.
Sure.
But it had to be, he needed to understand that he was not in the role he thought he was. But I had taken a chakra class online, and I took that to heart and was like, okay, I need to like literally think about what chakra needs to be open for this and what needs to be closed, and then utilize that to for the
Interesting.
benefit of myself and my community.
It just made me think that, there's this whole nonviolent communication training stuff. I read the book by Rosenberg on that, and it's amazing, and it sounds really hard. It seems like the way we all could, should, would talk as more healed, mature human beings. The fact that we have to write books and have a 9-week course to teach people how to speak
Yeah.
what they want to say without attacking, defending, grandizing. Well, you never listen to me, right? Like the speech patterns that so many of us use on a regular basis are so deeply coming from pain and hurt and deflection and everything. It's fascinating to me that and in the process of learning how to speak in this healthy pattern, you suddenly realize all the ways in which we just don't. Eventually I'm going to take that training and learn how to talk real nice.
I work in special ed, and often the students don't have as much voice as they think. So my little greeting with each student I work with is, very nice to see you today. I'm very glad to see you. And just to kind of open it up with them, to say, I'm here, I see you, That's my own little tradition that I do. And it helps me get a relationship every day with them, wherever they are, when I enter their space,
Yeah.
And one kid kind of rolled her eyes at me. I'm going to say it again to you. As always, it's nice to see you today. And then she looked at me.
Oh. Moving up to the third eye, this is where we have visions, dreams, imagination, potentially even psychic abilities. It is seeing, it's connected to the eyes. So it is seeing in the metaphorical sense. Great story in John of Jesus curing a blind man. And even before the man is literally cured, he can already metaphorically see. And then the Pharisees who can literally see, metaphorically can't see. It's a brilliant story that plays with the word see and our ability to actually perceive what is.
Yeah.
I am very painfully slowly working through A Course in Miracles. And one of the biggest basic lessons that they repeat over and over again is that nothing we look at or see, no person or object, do we actually see it for what it is. Because if we did, we would see the glowingness of the divine in all things, and we'd be like, wow. And I'd walk up to a stranger and I'd go, wow, look how beautiful you are. Look at, Of course we don't. What we do is we look at everything and we put 10 million judgments on it. Oh, that's too much sugar. Oh, that's, this person reminds me of this person, so therefore I don't like them as much. A million subconscious judgments we throw on absolutely everything we look at all the time. Right now, and just as a microscopic of people who might even be living here in our state and their inability to see what's happening with ice, right? They cannot see what's happening because the story they've been told has clouded their ability to see what might be in front of them. And I say that as a metaphor because I think that in general, as humans, we are this way. We get stories and narratives that are filters, like little glasses of how we see the world. And the amount of work it takes to take the glasses off, there's probably a lot of them. The misogyny glasses, the racist glasses, the domination and the capitalist glasses, the America First, all these things, right? Christian supremacy, all these glasses were given. It's scary because I think for a lot of us, if we admit that we are not actually accurately seeing reality the way it is, that's terrifying. Even if we're promised that the truth is healing and good and beautiful, it's still terrifying. The imbalances we can have, obviously, is no imagination, to be really cynical, very rigid in how things are. But also, we can have sort of, if we're overactive in the third eye, we can have so much processing coming in, you can't make sense and you don't feel like you have control over it.
Yeah.
And that could be.
And therefore you go, stop it.
Stop it. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard that.
What I see in Jesus is which is very cool, is his ability to see people. What you were saying.
Yeah.
His ability to look someone that he's just met in the eyes. And I think there's even one passage that says, I think it's when the rich man comes to Jesus and it says, Jesus saw him and loved him.
Mm-hmm.
So many of the interactions Jesus has with Mary of Bethany, with Martha, with the Samaritan woman, with all these people, it's like he can see through all the crap.
Mm-hmm.
The woman they want to stone, he's like, what? What kind of misogyny's going on here? You know, he just sees through all the stories and he sees right into the soul of that person. And that's one of the things that makes him so terrifying and amazing, is his ability to see, to know their feelings and thoughts. And something that I didn't really believe was possible until I actually started reading a lot more, to be able to predict future events. That's something that I thought was just, they put that in the Bible to just show how great Jesus was. You know, I never actually believed that anyone could do that. And then now, as I know more and I know better, his predicting his death, his other things very well could have been his ability to use his third eye to see what was coming. So that I'm going to pause there and open it up of the embody, and what would that be like to just really be able to see things as they are, to see through all the stories.
I mean, you know, you could be driving down the freeway and think, oh my God, there was an accident here at some point. And all this energy and death and grief and all that is like coming in.
You're
You're like,
very sensitive.
I'm like, oh my God, I can't take that.
Right.
Because
I gotta drive.
I need to be driving. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One time I walked into her brother's house. There was a lot going on in there.
He had an antique bed and breakfast that was probably haunted, you know, but
And
she's like, I gotta step outside.
I'm like, I can't take it right.
Mhm.
And then the same when we bought our house in the Seward neighborhood, walked in there
Turn of the century.
and it was like, holy moly. There were different energies in different rooms and then some that were just passing through. It's like we hired someone who we knew that to kind of
Help
shut
clean
it
it
all
out.
down,
Yeah.
help clean it out.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the energy was really positive, and some of it was extremely dark and negative.
Yep.
One time we had both houses and we were trying to paint and do stuff in the new house, and I was there alone, and it was getting dark, and I was like, the energy was. And the dog was a different dog, but the dog was like the dog was freaking out.
Mm.
When the dog is freaking out, I'm like, okay, yes, it's not, I'm not
me,
just crazy.
Yeah.
Stuff's happening. So the dog and I walked over to a friend's house, and she let me some crystals and some sage, and went back over there and was like, "Hey, get out of here." Yeah. And then it felt better for a bit, but yeah.
Ooh, I feel like we could talk about this for like 20 minutes. I have so many stories.
Yeah.
It's really, and this is the unseen world,
Yeah.
right? Now we're starting to get to this lighter world, the world where we're connecting to that which is not visibly seen. You might be able to hear, you might be able to feel. Some people can actually see a little bit, but it's not this kind of thing. And that's what makes it tricky to talk about, because not everyone's seeing, feeling, noticing this.
The same things.
Yeah. And there's also a level of discernment and difficult, just like with people, right? A person walks up to you that they're not necessarily going to be a good person, good energy to be around. The same thing is true with those other side entities. And in Mark especially, that's where we have like all these exorcism stories. There's a lot of spirit things that go on. I hadn't thought of this, but there's a lot of spiritual stuff that goes on with Jesus encountering these hostile entities, and real or metaphorical, or a little bit of both. Clearly he was very in tune with that energy and could sense that, and also didn't have any fear. And within himself, he really had a strong sense of probably spiritual boundaries of like, nope, absolutely not, which also shows another level of just control. All right. This last one, the crown chakra, represents our awareness and unity with the divine, enlightenment, wisdom. And the imbalances, this is kind of fun. So on the one hand, you can have a sort of so spiritual, spacey, ungrounded personality. And I think we all know what we're talking about here. It's just like, hey man, this person is floating around, maybe forget to eat, forget to wash, forget they can't work because they're just not present. And they're just, Ram Dass says, it's really good to be connected with the divine, but you need to know your zip code. You need to have your feet on the ground too. It's all seven aligned, He tells this funny story where this guy came up to me and goes, "Hey man, I'm God." And Ram Dass goes, "I know, me too." And he goes, No, man. I just had this powerful awareness that I'm God. And Ram Dass goes, "I know. So am I." And the guy is just, woo. So that's sort of the one direction that can be kind of easy. And the opposite, which is probably a little bit more common that we see in our culture, is sort of functional atheism. Whether you believe in God or not, it's just intellectual and very rigid, and really in many sense a materialistic thinking. That's all there is, kid. So it could be literally someone who's atheistic who says, okay, nope, there's no such things as angels, spirits, anything we can't see. There's nothing beyond this. When we're dead, we're dead. But a functional atheist could even be somebody who goes to church, who believes generically in God, believes in these sort of simple things, but don't talk to me about spirit guides. That's stupid. Anything else that I can't, like if it's not in the Bible exactly the way I've been told it was when I was 5 years old, it doesn't exist, right? So that sort of rigid thinking. And I also thought this was interesting because the crown chakra isn't just our connection here, but it starts to be that sort of unity. Yeah. We're all one, right? We're all one. And so the more closed off we are from others can also be sort of a reflection. And so I was researching, and one person said that kind of that selfishness, that inability to comprehend that other people are beings, that you're just kind of the star of your own show, and that's that, might be part of that imbalance. Yeah, you can kind of see how it swings in different ways. Watching in Jesus, he has a very grounded spirituality where he clearly has a line and is downloading information, is going and having oneness with God on the mountaintop. Like he's clearly having these experiences, but then he's coming back very concretely, teaching and speaking and breaking things down and empowering. The kingdom of God is within you. All right, you don't get that? Let's talk about mustard seeds. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. The treasure in the field. Trying all these different ways to kind of help people wrap around this inexplicable experience. How do you put this into words? So he's going to try to put these in all these little parables that can kind of maybe pebble their way toward understanding. So he's definitely not a, man, have we eaten today? Where are we going? You know, I'm sure he understood schedules to some degree, as you know, maybe not in a Western they know when you're late kind of way. Yeah. Very, very rigid over here. But in that full sense where he's taking this amazing experience he's had and he's able to process it through and connect it to all the other chakras so that he is this present person who is here now and yet is able to see and perceive that which is far, far more than what a regular person could. And that is sort of how I talk about the full human being, the Idahaya, the single one, the integrated being, is the divine energy, the chakras, is fully alive and fully activated in the human body. And in a lot of ways, what you could say is that with these blockages that we have, it's not that we're only human. We haven't fully embraced our full human and divinity, because to be fully human is to be fully divine. They're both. So to be a full human being is to embrace our full divinity and to unleash the power of these 7 chakras. One image I have is sort of that, it's sort of like we're always looking down at our feet. It's like the bent over woman, the crooked woman. Jesus is looking at her going, well, that's just not the way we're supposed to be. And so he heals her on the Sabbath, for Pete's sake. All of a sudden she can see upright and she's like, wow, So it's like, spiritually, Jesus is watching a whole human race in various levels of being crouched in on ourselves. And because everyone is, we think it's normal. And I bet it was very interesting for him when he could see people opening up, stretching up. He could tell it, they could feel it. They looked at each other like, whoa, yeah, okay. And that's what it means to be human. This is the experience we're supposed to be having on Earth, but it's being denied us because of shame, fear, guilt, condemnation, these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. That is just so pervasive around our planet, we think it's normal. And we don't even know there's another way to be. Or if we know there's another way to be, we think it's about morality, and then it feels overwhelming. And it's about perfectionism, and that feels overwhelming, rather than it is a journey of healing that along the way empowers you and alives you. And it's participatory. We get to participate in it. Yes.
So metaphor,
Yeah.
the first time I went snorkeling was the first time I saw another part of God's creation that I had never seen before. Right? And I love snorkeling because it Like I'm so used to being a land creature, right? And I know what a land creature is. And then I'm snorkeling and this little moray eel about this long comes at me with these little teeth going, like,
Wow.
okay, I'm a whole lot bigger than you, but you're meaner. Or these, the turtles that are like going with the flow and just existing and everything that like that's what came to my mind as you talked about this. Like we know how to be land creatures, right? But there's this other space that we're invited into, and that is so incredibly different and educational and opening. And so that's my metaphor, that as you're talking about this, like this is like okay. Okay.
This happens to me where I'll read a book and I'm so glad I'm reading the book because it's freeing me and it's blowing my mind and it's telling me things I've never heard. And I'm so mad that I hadn't heard it yet.
Yeah.
Because it's so freeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think Brene Brown says sometimes she just throws a book across the room because it's just, there's so many feelings. And I'm just like, I've had that experience where, and it's always pointing me toward a level of freedom and love, just ridiculous grace. Makes me so pissed off that we live in a world that's so graceless, that we don't even know
Right.
what
we're
that we're
missing.
starving.
Yeah.
Starving of grace. And what pisses me off even more is that we've all had church experience and we're still starving from grace because of
Religious.
because the
Tradition.
religion itself is anorexic of the full depth of the
Faith.
it's such a, anyone who's had any presence of love, God, angels, is just so ridiculously overwhelmed by the love and the acceptance that it's wonderful when we get glimpses of it, and yet so frustrating that we have to limp along without it.
Right.
I think it's hard because if you get those glimpses, well, then how do you incorporate that into yourself and then spread it out? Because our society doesn't really free us to do that as easily, or because then you're like wacko or
Heretic.
heretic or
That is the challenge of the chakras. How often can you get them all aligned and open all at once? I mean,
And I'm wondering if part of the journey is what's that next thing that's right in front of you that's coming up, whether it's self-acceptance, self-love, the person that's rubbing you raw, that's potentially the situation that can open something up.
and then there's that psychic noise again.
Yeah.
Why am I X years old and I'm just getting this?
And in the, I feel lucky that I've had a couple of those fully aligned,
Right.
like bliss, peace,
Right.
momentary. Oh, did I tell you the experience I had when I went on a retreat and I was with a body worker? Did I tell you this one? Okay, you know all my stories.
Maybe not.
I didn't know what she was doing. She's, an hour doing all sort. I'm like, whatever, you do your thing. And then afterwards she goes, okay, stand up and then tell me what you experience. So I stand up And I had never felt that way in my life. And what I said is, I said, I feel as if my feet are sinking into the earth, but I also feel extremely tall and light, as if my body is flowing with liquid light. There's no dent, there's no like cement in my body. It's all flowing. And I also said, I feel so sure of myself. And I also feel like anything could walk through the door and I wouldn't be afraid.
Mm.
And that to me was this momentary experience of what it's like to have them all. And she was just smiling mischievously. She knew. And within an hour.
In here.
Yeah, I know, right?
Does she live here in the city?
She's in California. I don't even know if she's retired or not, but that wore off. But it was enough to have that experience. And my first thought was, this is what Jesus must have felt like. And this is what he was trying to get us to feel. Because it was so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine someone trying to pick a fight with me and I'd be like, oh,
I love you.
It's like, wouldn't work. I wish you blessings that whatever chakra healing you need in this next week comes to you.
I am perfectly aligned at all times.
Are you perfectly aligned at all times?
Way to go, Dawn.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, right. All right. On that hilarious note, bye-bye.
Have a good night.